morning. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Overdose and Chill Live. This is episode 117. My name is Vincent. I'm the APAC Marketing Director at Overdose. I'm based in the Melbourne office. Today, I'm joined by Zinta, who is our Melbourne Client Success Director. We are streaming live. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Great to have you here. Please send through any comments into the comment section. Be happy to answer any questions along the way, so please engage. We're here today talking about all things Cyber Week 2022. It's been a massive month. We've seen some incredible results. We've worked very hard. We've worked very collectively, with our clients, and we're really excited to unpack all of the learnings and all of the strategies that went into a massive month. It was our best Overdose Cyber Week ever for our clients as well. We saw some incredible results. I think just to kind of go from the top, we're just going to recap on some of the big numbers and some of the things that we saw, because it was quite astounding, starting to unpack and look into everything over the last few weeks. So first and foremost, I think it was always going to be an interesting time this year heading into Cyber Week. We've seen year on year, this period grow bigger and bigger and bigger. We've seen more competitors and bigger retailers and different brands start to take a bit more of a position in this period as well. But some of the big results we saw, the vast majority of businesses saw year-on-year growth, which was really excellent to see. I think we were in that kind of 70 to 80% of businesses, achieving year-on-year revenue increases. Overall, we saw a solid amount of year-on-year growth for overall revenue. Sessions were up. Conversion rate, interestingly, was down a little bit. We did see that conversion rate was probably down about 5% compared to last year, nothing too significant. We did also see average order value improve over last year as well, which could be, related to some of the, inflation impacts that we've been seeing this year. But overall, really, great outcome. There was over $50 million in revenue generated over that period, which is really astounding there as well. And we saw lots of businesses do kind of record months, which we love to see. So I guess, off the back of this, Zinta, I'd love to hear from you. What were some of the trading strategies that our clients were using? What was working well? What were some of the big themes that we saw this year during Cyber Week?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest decisions for businesses to make is when to actually go live with their promotions. I know in the past years, a lot of brands get FOMO. They see, they're planning on going live on the actual Black Friday day, and then all of a sudden it's Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and it feels like every single ad on your Facebook and Instagram feed, businesses are going live with their promos. So that's something we definitely try and help guide our clients with and make sure we're prepared and hitting the market at the right time. But certainly this year, we did see a big influx of people engaging and buying earlier and earlier. And we found that what worked really well for a lot of our clients was a promotional period that was starting earlier and also going longer. So we always kind of see that natural spike in revenue on that go live date. Usually a lot of that is to do with the email EDM that goes out and hits all those inboxes, but just giving the consumer a time to really also consider, do they actually want to purchase? Maybe they're not keen to hit the trigger on that go live date, but by the time the sales been live for about a week and they've seen what competitors are doing, the customer by the end of the promotional period is happy to make that purchase. So we see another spike in revenue towards that final day of sale. So I think generally a popular time frame this year that we saw were promotions running from that Monday before Black Friday until the Cyber Monday. So about 8 days in total, I think, was a really good length of time. Some other trading strategies that we saw that worked really well. I think having clear set discounts is really key. It's such a busy time for consumers to try and work out who's selling what the discount is. So making sure that it's really, really easy and kind of there's limited friction. Once a customer lands on the website, they know what's on sale. I think the most obvious and easiest way of doing that is a blanket percentage off store wide. And I think that percentage off really does need to be a minimum of 20% off. Consumers are just looking for the best way to save money, particularly, it's probably something we'll talk about a lot in this chat, but in the current economic climate, we're all out here to just save a buck. So anything kind of less than 20% off, I don't think has that impact. And then when considering things like coupon codes, gifts with purchase as your promotion, or even a take a further off sale, I think it just doesn't cut through the busyness of the time period as well.
Yeah, definitely. How do businesses go that also chose to do kind of click frenzy and some of these other sales that were earlier in the month? Did you see that having multiple sales in a single month was overall successful? Or did you see that maybe one was stronger than the other as a result?
So yeah, certainly we did see a few brands that took part in both of those events. I think there's about a week off in between. So you've got your click frenzy, a week with no promo, and then you're going straight into Black Friday. So what we did see work well for click frenzy compared to the Black Friday Cyber Monday period was a click frenzy that was, I guess, more of a discount. So maybe it was that opportunity to do a take a further off your sale collection as opposed to a store-wide event. With some businesses, we saw that worked really well. And in that down period, maybe they use that as an opportunity to launch their Christmas range or a gifting range or something new. So then by the time, we were heading into Cyber Week with the percentage off store wide, there was new products for the customer to buy. But in some cases, and I think a lot of it was to do with perhaps the average order value, how much, the products cost in general. We did find that percentage off store wide actually didn't offer as good a saving as the click frenzy, take a further off or whatever the promo was. So in that case, perhaps the Black Friday results were a bit softer than what we were expecting. But then overall, looking at the month and looking at the month kind of year on year or according to what that revenue target was, it was still exceeded and the performance was really was really high. So, overall the strategy worked, but I think it's about considering what you want to achieve out of each of that sale period. And yeah, making it consistent during the month. Or maybe if you don't want to take part of click frenzy, you have to accept that those first few months of the first few weeks of the month, might be really, really quiet, and you have to kind of hold your breath and wait for a super successful Black Friday period, which I know is something that you saw across some of our clients that didn't take part in click frenzy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that really stood out this year for me was the customer is just so much more digitally savvy now. I think everyone is very aware that, this time of the year is the time to shop. They're also very patient. They also, if you're holding off and holding back, the customer is going to wait. They're not going to just end up shopping in October and in November. So I think, in the lead up, it was really interesting seeing probably what I'd say is a fairly soft October for a lot of brands. I think we did see consumers, tightening the belt a little bit, but then, the payoff kind of coming back into November when everyone is aware that you can get a good deal and get a good discount. So I think it was really interesting seeing that. I also thought this year was interesting with a lot of businesses being very transparent about what they were going to do for Cyber Week, and I think, with that lull period in early November, people know it's going to be a bit harder to get that sale across the line. So why not just be transparent, actually let people know, we are going to go on sale. These are the dates. This is the discount. And then, at least you've given people the best shot to, shop when they're feeling comfortable, when they, want to get something at a discounted price, rather than potentially losing them to a competitor who does activate the sale earlier and does kind of get in front of you earlier. So I think that's where, that race has always happened, is being people always wanting to go a bit earlier to hopefully, nudge past and pick up a few extra customers. But if you're actually just communicating pretty clearly to your base, I think that really helps build that loyalty and really build that trust there. One of the interesting stats that we pulled out as well around this period, we saw about 67%, so 2/3 of revenue was attributed to returning users during the Cyber Week sale. So, really shows that people weren't necessarily just discovering things and looking for things on the fly. It was very researched. It was very considered. People had already, put things on the shopping list, and then they were coming back to convert once the sale had happened. So I think a lot of that prep work in the lead up to the big sales events were, they really paid off for a lot of businesses who put the effort in early, drove the sessions early, had their expectations kind of tempered by the fact that people are pretty patient at the moment, and then were able to capitalize with a really big execution, with a good database, with a really good remarketing list and things like that as well. So yeah, it was really good seeing that the customer dynamics are starting to change, but businesses are really, leading the way and keeping up with that as well.
Yeah, totally.
So I guess another, question for you would be that prep work. What did the first few months look like, kind of leading up to Cyber Week? Can you describe, what our clients were doing, what we were doing, and some of the ways that we were working together to try and educate and deliver that strategy that underpinned everything?
Yeah, of course. I think that this is something that our clients, maybe they get, a bit annoyed with us. We start talking about Black Friday periods really early. We start thinking about it in August. We really start driving at home in September because we're wanting all the briefs in by October. It can feel a bit early, particularly when you are dealing with other product launches or sale periods that pop up within that time. Overdose, we really like to, really start off our preparation for Black Friday period. We put together a bit of an info pack, just looking at what industry trends are, how we performed last year, and what results we saw in terms of CPCs, and let that kind of guide our strategy for what we need to achieve this year. So, I think the key thing, as I kind of mentioned, is getting your strategy, getting your creative, locking in your offer as soon as possible, and then making sure that that's optimized across all of your channels. So, looking at things like your email list and making sure that it's healthy. On the tech side as well, we're already talking to our clients about what kind of optimizations we need to make to the website, and how those deployments can fit in within the schedule of other kind of BAU work that we do to ensure that when customers are hitting the website, they're getting a really great user experience there. Because of course, in any peak period, when we have more budget through our paid channels, we're driving way more traffic to the website. We want to make sure that the website is optimized for those users to convert, and that the conversion rate isn't what is holding us back to achieve. And just having a look at the general tech stack as well that we're working with. So, platforms like Yotpo and Klaviyo, I think, are just a bit of a non-negotiable during sale periods to help capture that customer data and also ease that friction to conversion. We also help to implement some cool apps on websites. I think one that works really well and kind of leads into what you're talking about before, Vinny, around sale transparency, is something as easy as a countdown to sale timer on your website. So you just have that as a banner at the top of your site. So when people are in that kind of browsing stage, they'd land on your website and they actually know, oh, maybe I don't want to pay for this full price because I can see that, you know, you guys are going on sale in a week or two and I'm happy to wait. So you know, the prep work really starts months out, and I think that is the most important way to kind of build up a business for success in that peak period. Anything last minute is just going to be a bit of a scramble, and I think, you know, it also means that it limits us as well with how we can plan internally. I know that the team, your team, the marketing team, I should say, are really
one team, one dream.
Great at are really great at kind of planning out and pacing the budget for the month. So I'm actually really keen to hear how you guys work out how to prep those budgets and make sure that we're building customers at the right time and then kind of going gung-ho, and what that actually looks like during the Cyber Week period as well.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. I think it's a really important part to, firstly understand goals, what are targets, and how much budget people have to work with. So we do a lot of work forecasting with businesses in the lead up, just to really understand what are the trends, what are the dynamics at the moment, and what can we really expect to realistically achieve, and then maybe what's a stretch target. So if we are seeing pacing and sales ahead of where we want them to be, like, do we want to unlock some additional budget to try and really scale things up in that short term kind of perspective. So we tailor that to all of the businesses that we work with, and then what we really find in the lead up, and some of the interesting findings from this year particularly are basically building that customer base ahead of time. So it's not about a big execution on one single day and throwing all the budget at it that particular day. It's kind of a gradual, slow increase throughout the month, really making sure we're keeping close eye on a variety of different metrics. I think looking at upper funnel and middle funnel metrics in the start of the month. So making sure we've got the right number of sessions, making sure the traffic quality is really high, making sure people are adding to cart. All of these little precursor actions are taking place. The revenue is probably not going to be there, like we've discussed. People are adding to cart, looking at shipping rates, kind of getting a bit of their own game plan and shopping plan together. And then, once the sales do open up, conversion rates on the site are a lot higher. Then we can start to, drive a pretty rapid increase in traffic to really try and capitalize on that as well. So it's, a lot of prep, a lot of planning, lots of monitoring as well throughout the month. So, we've got a number of really great dashboards that we use that, update daily with all of the different metrics that we're paying attention to. And we, collectively work as a group to make sure we're getting those spend levels up there. What was one of the great findings from this year, I think, was looking at CPC, looking at how that has throughout the month, the competitiveness of the market leading into that Cyber Week, what that does to CPC. I know a lot of the recommendations from our marketing partners in the past has been, don't pay attention to it, just focus on revenue and yada yada. But I'm a bit old school. I think fundamentally you've got to keep it cheap. You've got to make sure that you're not just losing and wasting money on inflated costs. I think having a view on how many sessions you need to get to the website is just so fundamental. So if you're not getting the volume and bulk of that traffic to the website to turn into a customer, that's critically important. So we've done a lot of work this year on mitigating rising CPCs. We've got a number of different strategies and a number of different ways on platforms that we've been able to flatten that out and prevent that from blowing out. Throughout the month, CPCs did rise about 40% during the Cyber Week period. So, effectively, if you're looking at spending that budget earlier in the week versus on that day, you're effectively losing out 40% of that traffic that you might have been able to gain in the lead up. And as we saw as well, the vast majority of shoppers are returning customers during this period. So they are people who have, come to the site early, know what they want, and then we can use other channels to get them back onto the site. Like, we're not doing a whole bit of new customer acquisition on the day necessarily. We're using our email channels. We're using, we saw SMS this year have a massive increase. I think that in itself was really remarkable. A lot of businesses getting SMS consent from their consumers throughout the year, building out that part of their database, and then really activating what is a fairly cost-effective way of getting right in front of your prime customers with a good tailored message at the right time. I think our SMS customers and people who are using that service, we saw about a 400% year-on-year increase in revenue. SMS turned into, I think, one of the top 15 channels that we've been measuring as well. So, it's on the rise. I think it's going to be a really big player in the years to come. And I think, interestingly, it just was synced up really well with, platforms like Klaviyo and .digital, and, places where you can have a really great customer automation setup. You can, at the right time, divert off, get people in with the right message through that platform as well. Conversion rates on SMS was really surprising as well. I think we saw about an average 3% conversion rate through that platform itself, which for a mobile device centered experience is really high. I think it shows that there's a lot of robustness in the platform and in how people receive that message. I think we just got a question that came through.
There we go.
It was about service-based businesses taking advantage of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I personally think it's a great time for a lot of businesses to trial something of that nature. Look, we are an e-commerce based business in what we do, so it wasn't something that we particularly did take part in this year with service-based businesses. But I would say, absolutely, if you do have a particular offer, if you've got something that is going to be more compelling for getting that new business or getting a lead or having those first conversations, absolutely go for it. I would say on the flip side, one thing to be mindful of is it is very noisy at that time of the year. There are a lot of other businesses and a lot of other retailers who are going in and trying to get attention, so it can drive up CPCs and acquisition costs. So I think that's probably something to be mindful of. But it's always worthwhile having a crack. I think the other thing to consider is it the right time of year for your service-based business? Is this when people do want to be hearing from you and coming into the end of the year, people are wrapping up a little bit more as well there.
Yeah, I think that on your point, what we were talking about before, it can definitely be worthwhile, but the same strategy has to be followed in terms of preparation and making sure that you're not just pulling the trigger because it is a busy period and everyone else is doing, and making sure that it is still well thought out, that you are filling in your top of funnel with new audiences ready to kind of retarget during that peak period. So the same strategy can definitely be applied. Awesome. Another question here from Sophie. What was the movement in stores during Black Friday Cyber weekend that we've heard from clients? So I have actually had a few conversations around clients around this specifically. So if we're thinking about promos that kind of were going for that week-long length that I was discussing earlier, we did see, anecdotally, a bit of a drop-off on the weekend. I think, a bit of a drop-off online in spending on the weekend. And I think that kind of lines up with consumers going into retail stores, maybe hitting up your big shopping centres, and going into those brick and mortar locations to actually see what the sales are, maybe try on clothing, seeing what the product is in real life. And as a result, they weren't spending that time online. And then back, once it was Cyber Monday, we did see another kind of spike for those final days of the promotion. I'm not sure if you have heard anything similar or different around that one, Vinny.
Yeah, I think those are really good observations. And, I personally saw this year so much advertising on, actual television, free to air, all of the big retailers are taking part now who have got the online and the offline part to their business. So, I think absolutely, there's a lot of offline shopping on the weekend when people can go out and have a look around, and, it just shows that it's not just I guess 2 or 3 years ago, it was very much just like an online only type of event, but it's basically all of retail now. Everyone jumps on the bandwagon. Everyone's got a discount. So I think there's always going to be offline parts to play in this kind of space. What we did see, which was really interesting. So, we've got quite a few businesses who are omni-channel. They've got offline presence, and we've been doing a lot of work doing, store tracking through Google. So looking at people who discover them via Google, via paid search, and then they actually go into the store, off the back of that as well. And we saw some really great uplifts in that side of things. So we can actually, measure the impact and over those sale periods, like what happens when someone discovers you online and then decides, yes, I do want to go in store, I want to try that on, or, that thing, if it's something big, you might want to go and touch it, feel it, and everything like that. So yeah, it's great to see that there's a really good unison between those two areas, and that we can, bring it together there as well. Another question coming through from Laura: do you think we saw a larger October in 2021 compared to October 2022? Yes. So I can absolutely say October 2021 was a lot bigger. And I think one of the things we probably haven't mentioned yet is the impact of lockdowns. Basically, last year we were in lockdown in Melbourne. I think a few of the other states were probably kind of in and out through that time as well. So we're really comparing a period where there was practically no offline shopping during that time, and it was all online. And I think even leading into this year, during this Cyber Week, when we compare against the consumer last year, we were just on the tail end of being in lockdown. I think there was still quite a bit of fear in the public around going into physical retail stores. Do I actually want to be in a busy marketplace, or would I prefer to shop online? So I think for that reason, this year's results really did stand out. Taking that into account a lot more, to consider that there is such a big offline shopping presence now. It's really has rose up, but e-commerce has held its ground. We've really seen the scope and the different types of businesses that did start to sell online, that did grow and boom during online. They've held their own, and I think the results are really speaking to that new normal that we're seeing ourselves in off the back of all of that. Patagonia, we all love Patagonia. Always, great to see how they tackle things as well. I think they're very much a business that their values are always so brought to the front of everything they do. And I think what was it this year? They were saying, kind of like we don't want you to shop Black Friday. They didn't do any discounting. This is a common thing they've done over the last few years there as well. And I think it always works for them. They know that their product is very valued. They know that their customer is very loyal, and that they will be able to, just kind of play things their own way. Everything they do generates its own publicity as well. So it's kind of a very good guerrilla marketing tactic if you look at it that way. But yeah, we love what they've done there in that space. What role does email and automation play in all of this, and how should you consider your strategy? Zinta, what did you see from the email and automation side of things this particular season?
So it's definitely a channel that we are encouraging our clients to consider as, a top revenue driver and way to nurture their customers through. And, we are seeing that email is really a large contributor to a lot of revenue, and really should be focused on that. So I think that it's becoming bigger and bigger every year. And particularly as we are kind of focusing a lot on that first party data ownership that's coming through. So we spent a lot of the year working with our clients on recommendations on how they can optimize their email channels. So, building out sophisticated customer flows on top of best practice foundations like welcome series and abandoned cart emails, and making sure that that's all kind of set up and ready to go to really leverage during these peak sale periods. Email was actually a top 4 channel for our clients, and it drove about an average of, I think, 12% of all revenue during Cyber Week, which is very substantial. As mentioned, we do often see this in that kind of top 4, type 5 revenue driving channels for our clients. I think an interesting observation that we did see in general, and I certainly, I've been doing a lot of Black Friday reporting this week actually, so this one is fresh in my mind. We actually saw that sessions were down for email year on year in the month of November, even though that revenue was up. So, usually when we are looking at the month as a whole across and really successful results, we're just seeing green everywhere. It's like every channel up on sessions, up on revenue. So to see that sessions were down on a channel like email does kind of stand out and makes you wonder why that might be so. And I think it's, probably likely that people are, getting emails on one device. So I know I just check all my emails, they come through on my phone, and I kind of keep one for later if I want to look into it, or delete it straight away if it's something a bit spammy. So, people are probably getting those promotional emails on one device, like their mobile, and then maybe jumping on desktop or something like that to actually make that purchase, or, maybe even going back a few times, or going back on their device a week later to make that final purchase. So, those consumer habits are changing a bit. But, definitely email is a channel that not only during peak periods, but one to really kind of leverage and invest in all throughout the year. And it's, I know, definitely been a big focus for us at Overdose this year, and even more so next year.
Yeah, definitely. I think, one of the really common strategies that a lot of clients employed this year was, VIP launch, early access for the sale for people who are, in a VIP segment of their database, which was executed by email. Some of the best performing days were those first initial days where you access or you give access to people who are, quite likely to spend as well. So that was really great to see. And I think, to your point as well around sessions being down, what we also saw was direct traffic was up, and direct traffic revenue was up. So, I think that really speaks to, potentially those people who might be accessing email via, even like a smartwatch, seeing the promos on, and then heading straight through to a desktop or somewhere that they prefer to shop through. So it was really, really great to see that. I think the other thing that's so important now is database health. So really making sure that you're cleaning, segmenting your database correctly, so you're getting no deliverability issues. We did see quite a bit of change in the email market earlier this year with, the way that emails are filtered through. There's some iOS 15 updates that, have changed the way that email is, performed in how we're talking to people based upon their, available IDs and things like that there. And I think email design fundamentally is critically important, really, making sure that click-through rate, people are actually opening, getting to your email and clicking through to the website. If that's down, if that's not happening, then the sessions are just not going to come through from that as well. So there's definitely a few things that people can do to combat that. I think it's an interesting observation, that we are seeing. We'll just have to be kind of mindful of the ways to navigate through that, and to just fundamentally just be, always doing email database building activities. At the end of the day, it's sometimes a slow burn, but when you can get the payoff at those big sale periods by having a considerably larger database to work with, it really is a big multiplier at the end of the day to work with.
Definitely.
Another one for you there, I guess, kind of as we're coming up to another sale period, and this month itself, there's been a lot of other sale activities with Christmas and whatnot. But as we do come up to Boxing Day, which has traditionally been quite a big sales period, are there any lessons or anything there that you think are some good takeaways from the last month that people should be thinking about ahead of this?
I think we've probably touched on a lot of them, but to kind of wrap them all up, the key I guess insights there is really to communicate your sale ahead of time, or don't be scared to communicate your sale ahead of time, and putting out little teasers or encouraging sign-ups to your VIP mailing list. You may feel like you've just done that for Black Friday, but if your promotion is different for Boxing Day, you might have new products that are going to go on sale. There still is an advantage to make sure that you are getting people interested and signing up. As we kind of mentioned, this may mean a quieter than expected December period before Boxing Day. That's a trend that, as mentioned, we did see in November, because people spent up big for those massive savings during Cyber Week. So the assumption there is that they really are holding off. They've done all their Christmas shopping now, and then they're waiting for those Boxing Day sales again, for whatever they want to make that purchase on, at a significant discount. And then another, I've seen a lot of updates from brands just kind of on my own Instagram feed, around things like delivery and fulfillment issues. So I think, again, transparency is really key with consumers. As a business, ensuring that staff will be on hand to kind of handle those demands of fulfillment. But if there are things like shipping delays, or also at this time of year, I think shipping cutoffs, which probably at this stage, looking at the date, the shipping cutoff time is probably past, or we're at that mark. But definitely, ahead of this time, just making sure that customers know what's going on, if there's delays, and things like that. So yeah, they're probably my big lessons coming up as Boxing Day. And as always, preparation, making sure that promos are all set. Obviously, Boxing Day goes live after a public holiday, and probably a few days of people not really being around their computers. So limiting the chance of any changes and kind of issues or errors that might occur on that day.
Yeah, excellent. And then what about industry specific trends? Did you notice anything around particular industries that did do better than average during Cyber Week? Were there any industries that were a little bit flatter as a result? What were some of the things we can identify from that side of things?
I think that looking across we've got a pretty wide range of verticals on our portfolio. Fashion brands kind of around that mid-range price point certainly performed really well. We did see a bit of a mix across kind of furniture and homewares. Obviously, they were verticals that performed really well during lockdowns, when people were spending more time at home and wanting to fill their homes with beautiful goods. So while we did see some of those perform, still seeing year-on-year growth there, I think a lot of those higher price points perhaps didn't kind of reap the benefits of those significant discounting, because in general, we are finding that people out there just don't have as much money to spend on those really high ticket items. I'm not sure if you have any other insights around what you saw, Vinny?
No, I think that was very similar to how I saw it. I think, definitely businesses that boomed during the last couple of years probably did see a bit of a regression towards the mean, and they're starting to see what normal environments look like now that we've gone through the last few years. So I think that was definitely an interesting outcome there. Very much like a personal, I would say probably very much a personal shopping time, like not so much Christmas shopping. Like there wasn't necessarily a clear trend that people are buying gifts. I think there was quite a lot of people spending money on themselves during the period, which was really interesting to see there as well. I think the gift giving thing in particular has been interesting because, people are aware they can get their shopping done early, no hassles. You don't have to be scrambling around in December. Just, take an hour out of your day, get all of your Christmas shopping done online, and then just, wait for the deliveries to come through over the coming week. So that was probably, interesting part there. But yeah, definitely fashion, I think, was definitely a standout with the amount of revenue, but also the, different types of brands and businesses in that space that, were successful there. But yeah, always interesting to see that. I think, there have been certain verticals this year that have done better than others. I think there's a lot of factors to that. I think, we have had a bit of a COVID baby boom. So certain businesses that have got exposure to that side of things have had quite a, strong year with selling to, new mums and soon to be mums and things like that as well. So yeah, some really interesting things starting to appear as a bit of a trend. But overall, like we kind of started with, we saw the vast majority of businesses get that year-on-year uplift, which is always really great to see.
Awesome.
And then I guess,
sorry, bit of a lag there. Yeah, I think, from that, there are lots of unknowns for us going into this year, after 2 years of COVID and lockdowns, and we had no idea what this year was going to look like. But what do you have any big predictions for Cyber Week 2023, or just, I guess, next year in general? What are we expecting to see, or what are the unknowns still that we're kind of trying to navigate our way through?
Are we already planning for next year already? It's already begun.
Always.
No, well, if you had have asked me a month ago, what do you think Cyber Week was going to be like this year? I would honestly have said it was a bit of a flip of the coin. And I think that was mostly due to the fact that Cyber Week has grown rapidly every year for, as long as I've been around. It's just been a increasingly busy and big part of the year, and revenue's been growing consistently there as well. So I think for that reason, I think naturally there's going to be a time where it does plateau. Maybe it does take a dip. So I was, in October thinking maybe this is the year, maybe it does kind of end up being a bit flat, but I was very glad to be wrong on that. And, I think we were, doing everything we could to make that not happen. So coming into next year, I think what we'll see is again, it's going to be a digitally mature customer. It's going to be a patient customer. I think that prep work leading into October is going to be as important as ever. And then I think some of the standout things from this year, definitely, I think the transparency was one that I think a lot of businesses would be interested in doing. We've also spoken a lot with businesses this year around kind of like, how do I move away from a discounting strategy, and like, what can I do to make sure that I can, have a successful and consistent business that doesn't rely so much on those sale periods. So I would say what is important next year is not just being on sale, not just being a brand or a product that is at a discount, but actually make sure that you're communicating the value in your brand, the value in your business, what you stand for. I think some of these things are starting to become such an important part of cutting through and really making sure that you do stand out in the crowd. Utility is a massive one. So what is the function and what is the purpose of what you've got? I think, that's always going to be super important when people are deciding what to buy. If you've got a function and if you've got utility, that is massive. Urgency is always going to be big as well. And then kind of exclusivity. I think if you can really paint that idea that, there is an urgency, you need to buy it, you might miss out, there's limited stock, all of these things we've seen drive, really good uplifts in the past. But I think if you can really paint yourself as being, in that space where you've covered, your values and everything like that, then that gives you the edge in a competitive market.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it'll still be a year that will be filled with the unknown, which is probably every year in e-commerce. But what we have been able to experience this year and the learnings we'll take away will definitely make us a lot better prepared. But the key thing that sticks out for me is certainly that consumers are just going to become more and more savvy, are going to be looking for how they can save their money. And I know that, we really chat a lot, as you mentioned, to a lot of our clients about how to avoid becoming a discount brand. So I think developing that strategy outside of peak sale periods will be a really important thing to focus on, so we can make sure that we're doing all of that brand building exercise, and then using those peak sale periods really as a trigger to go above and beyond to really generate that additional revenue.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
I think there's always going to be multiple different customer profiles and demographics for each business. So I think it's a case of probably getting familiar again and redoing that piece of work to really understand who is your customer, who's your target customer, making sure that there's a really good alignment there, and then putting that into the strategy so that you are able to work across people who are happy to shop full price, and then there's very nice strategies set for people who do want to pick up a good deal and a good discount. All right. What are some of the final thoughts? So, I guess recapping everything this year, I am going to just divert us down to some marketing specific observations as well, because I'm really, really proud of what everyone's done this year. And I think, the results on platform were really spectacular. Facebook, Meta, as we call them now, that was, I think, particularly really interesting platform for our clients. We saw year on year, a 65% uplift in return on ad spend. I think that's a really incredible result, and that's off the back of about a 36% increase in investment. So definitely saw a lot of businesses continue to invest heavily in Meta ads. And I think, what we've also seen this year is a really good sync with your platforms like Klaviyo's and .digitals, where we're kind of feeding, live customer data through and echoing what those customer experience flows look like through digital marketing channels to really make sure there's like a lot of personalization, and that we're delivering the right message at the right time to the right people. One of the big things there I think was really interesting was CPC on average went down 42% year on year. That's pretty incredible. Like, we usually see CPC inflating and going up higher and higher. And I know the team's been working really hard on utilizing a more diverse range of marketing strategies to fundamentally drive more traffic, and get more quality eyeballs on brands, kind of fighting against the grain in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of stuff that we've been doing that have been tested throughout the year to look at this new environment that we're in. Since iOS 14 came out, how do we actually take what's changed, use it to our advantage, and deploy strategies off the back of that. So I think there's been some really big wins in that space. Another interesting observation was that we saw investment into iPhone devices through Meta ads increase, about 20% year on year, and then Android spend decreased year on year. The amount of click volume that we got from iPhone users was up about 110%. So definitely, a big swing towards those users, which had been in the past a bit more of a challenge with some of the rollout and some of the effects of iOS 14. So it could be, related to improved targeting, improved creative, also improved ad delivery through the platform itself. I think they've made some improvements there. So some really excellent stuff coming through that channel. Google was very similar. We saw, a much larger investment into Google this year. I think a lot of brands know that it's a staple. It's a really big channel when you're fighting for traffic in November. This is a really good way of securing that, and also having the flexibility of being able to, scale up and down depending on how your business is going towards targets. I think we saw a lot of businesses a little bit later in the game, when results were really strong, come to the table and say, hey, we actually want to, kind of double down here. We're really happy. Can we actually push this a bit harder over the weekend? There, Performance Max has been a big topic in the Google ad space. That's kind of a new-ish campaign type that's been operating for close to a year. I think it was really interesting seeing how did Performance Max actually go over a competitive period like Cyber Week. The team were building out contingency plans ahead of time to kind of say, if we are seeing ad delivery issues, if we're seeing things not go the way that we want them to with this platform, what are we going to do about it? But it held up really well. We saw CPC fairly stable. We saw return on ad spend in a really strong place, and definitely didn't see any kind of performance glitches or anything that might have been the case of a fairly new, untested space there. So really good to see that particular campaign type hold up there and deliver some really, really strong results. YouTube was another one that was really interesting. We saw YouTube spend increase significantly. A lot more brands are bringing this in as part of their regular channel mix. It is such a big channel for reach. I think it's the second highest search engine by volume. There's just such a large portion of people who use YouTube in all different types of customer demographics. And I think interestingly, we really started to see return on ad spend through YouTube this year. A lot of businesses using new ad features, delivering the right message, targeting the right people. So yeah, great to see that it has function as a reach platform, but there are possibilities and there are ways of actually getting some revenue and getting some conversions off the back of that as well, which is always really good to see. So I think the marketing channels that we were operating, really great to see some of the big results coming through, but also some really good themes and good opportunities leading into next year as well.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I'm definitely very proud of all the efforts of the team. I think, the marketing team absolutely killed it with their execution, but certainly, we're really conscious at Overdose that Black Friday, Cyber Monday is not just a marketing exercise. It really involves, the entire team and, our developers, our tech leads, making sure that the websites are all set up, SEO teams, client success, of course, to kind of bring that all together in line with the client goals. So yeah, I think it's definitely a testament to how well we all work together and our culture, and to be able to see those results, particularly after all the hard work that we put in. November is hectic, so is December, and the way the team just kind of hustles and pulls it all together and gets it done, I think, we should all be really proud of ourselves. I reckon it's awesome to see.
Absolutely. I think those are some really great final thoughts. I think that's a great way to wrap it up. Absolutely. Big team effort. Just spans every single person in the business and our clients as well. I think we've been really lucky to work with such wonderful businesses and clients who, we can collaborate with, and we can, tackle all of this together. There's a lot of trust and there's a lot of respect there. So big thanks to everyone
On to next year.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Zinta. Really enjoyed chatting through everything. Work's not done yet. We've still got a few weeks of sales left, so I'm sure we'll get back to it and see if we can produce another really big month for our clients.
Awesome. Thanks, Vinny. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.